President Trump has spent the last few days launching an all-out assault on special counsel Mueller and his investigation, saying things like the Mueller probe should never have been started, that it is a total witch hunt, and that Mueller's team is stacked with Democrats. Let us set aside for a moment that so much of what the president says is simply factually incorrect.
That was Representative Jerome Nadler of New York speaking of President Trump's open hostility towards special counsel Robert Mueller and his investigation with Trump's top attorney John Dowd resigning today, and more evidence of Russian interference both in the U.S. and elsewhere. Focus on the investigation is heating up. Here with us to break down the situation are Talking Points analysts Conor, Wight, and Jack Watson. Guys, thank you for being here.
Great to be here.
So when we look at how credible the rumor is that President Trump could fire Bob Mueller, what is the response from GOP leadership?
Well, we don't necessarily know how credible it is, but tweets from President Trump over this past week seem to indicate that he is nearing it. He's been calling it a witch hunt, basing it on the fake dossier, as according to him, paid for by the Clintons. So he really is ramping up suspicion that he wants this to end, and that could end in the firing. And that has led to a lot of distaste from top members of the GOP. We have Senator Lindsey Graham saying that this could mark the beginning of the end of his presidency.
And in an administration as sporadic as this one has been, it's really not too far-fetched to predict something like this to happen. We can really only speculate. But GOP leadership, Republicans, even top Republicans like Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan have said, look, just let Mueller do his job, cooperate with him, and let's end this thing as quickly as possible. That's been the attitude of certain Trump lawyers like Ty Cobb. And basically, it's really, to me, it's an interesting thing because the president has been so vehemently against Mueller in public, railing against him on his Twitter account, on President Trump's Twitter account, that is. But behind the scenes, there seems to be a bit more of a disagreement.
Well, what I find interesting, right, is that while, yes, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, all these top GOP leaders, they have warned President Trump not to fire Bob Mueller. They have said that they don't feel it's necessary to create a law that would protect Mueller. So I think, personally, that it could become one of these situations, right, where if Trump does fire Mueller, that the GOP has nicely placed themselves in the middle. Like, we warned against it, but they didn't go so far as to making a law. Now, Jack, according to the Washington Post, Special Counsel Robert Mueller does want to talk with President Trump about the firing of Michael Flynn. How significant do you think that is?
Well, the Flynn indictment has been so far the only indictment of a Trump administration member, not a transition team member necessarily, not a campaign team member, but a member of the actual administration itself. And what Bob Mueller is trying to figure out here is, did the president sanction Flynn's talks with Russians? How much did he know? And was that the motivation by him asking at the time FBI Director James Comey to fire or to end the investigation on Michael Flynn, who then resigned in mid-February? So it's an incredibly interesting prospect, because if that is true, if the president's motivation behind that was behind his conversation with Mueller in the Oval Office, or rather Comey in the Oval Office, was to end the investigation on Flynn because of deals with Russia, that might be obstruction of justice.
And to pivot from the investigation to the international community, we obviously had the election this past week of President Putin, and they spoke over the phone and they discussed whatever they discussed. But ultimately, what does that bode in terms of the United States taking a position that the election was a sham? What does that exactly mean, Conor?
Well, we've had a number of top Republicans, including John McCain, come out against the allegations, or not the allegations, the fact that President Trump did in fact congratulate President Putin, as opposed to, we've had several reports saying that he did not condemn things like, the 2016 election meddling or the recent nerve agent attack on a Russian spy in Great Britain. So it's really about what he didn't say as opposed to what he did say. That's what people are seeing as problematic.
Exactly. Widespread criticism toward the president for saying things along the lines of congratulations against the wishes of his advisors.
Right.
And the fact that the president didn't talk about not only the supposed nerve gas attack, but the fact that we're investigating their country for supposed meddling in the U.S. election, which is something that the entire intelligence community, basically in the United States, has agreed upon.
Lots of developing storylines, and it's certainly something that is going to keep evolving. Thank you both.
Thank you.